I'm holding in my head several different attitudes. On one hand, I'm great and smart and nice and can't be fooled. But though there's also some other things that kinda prove that I made a dumb choice and now it's uh-oh boo-hoo. It makes me uncomfortable and inconsistent, and it's a thing called cognitive dissonance. It makes me
How is it going, AP Psych class? And welcome back for another Flex Time review. The finish line is in sight because we are on our final unit of the course, Social Psychology. In today's lesson, we're going to see what happens when we have inconsistencies within our thoughts and perceptions by taking a look at social psychologist Leon Festinger's theory on cognitive dissonance. You may have noticed a change in opening music. That lovely song by Mr. Brad Ray has been stuck in my head ever since I started teaching psychology. If you are looking to further expand your knowledge on cognitive dissonance, I put a link to his full video in the description box. I highly recommend you check it out. It's super catchy. It's the voice of an angel. Now, if you would like to follow along with this video, there is a link in the description box that will bring you to a worksheet that can be completed while watching. And with that being said, let's get started. On January 1st, 1956, Leon Festinger and his collaborators published their social psychology study, When Prophecy Fails, a social and psychological study of a modern group that predicted the destruction of the world. Pretty long title. In the 1950s, a Chicago housewife by the name of Dorothy Martin claimed to be receiving messages from alien beings from a distant planet she called Clarion. The aliens, referred to by Martin as the Guardians, were supposedly relaying a message to Martin, informing her that a catastrophic flood would destroy the world on December 21st, 1954. The group of believers made several questionable decisions to prove their commitment, such as leaving their jobs, colleges, life savings, and some even left their spouses, thinking they will be spared as their alien friends rescued the group before the flood. Leon Festinger and his colleagues, including Stanley Schachter, the emotion guy, joined the group, observing them firsthand for months before the apocalypse. When December 21st came and went with no flood, Martin claimed that due to the forces of good and light the group spread, the world was spared. In the following months, Festinger and his gang stuck around to talk with some of the group members. While less involved members of the group were more inclined to recognize the errors of their ways, dedicated members were shown to have reinterpreted the evidence and stated that they were right all along. This is shown with Martin stating that the earth was spared due to the faithfulness of the group members. Curious as to why those who have clearly been proven wrong might strengthen their belief, Festinger would go to further his research with a set of controlled experiments that were conducted in 1959, titled Cognitive Consequences of Forced Compliance. Festinger is going to be testing the idea of cognitive dissonance, which is a social psychology theory that shows how we act to reduce discomfort that we feel when two of our thoughts are inconsistent with one another. The population of the study included 71 students from Stanford University, 11 of which who were disqualified for some reason. Not quite sure what they did to get DQ'd, but it happened. Anyways, this brings our test population to 60 students. For the experiment, Festinger would have each participant complete the very boring, tedious task of rotating pegs on a pegboard for about an hour. Festinger wanted the task to be so boring that no one would possibly enjoy doing it. The experimental condition involved telling the subject before the experiment started that it would be really fun, while the control group had no preconceived expectations about the experiment. After an hour of aimlessly rotating pegs on a board, control group members would go to a room to be interviewed, while experimental group members were offered either $1 or $20 to try and convince the next participant, who was a Confederate, that the experiment was fun. When talking with the Confederate member, both those who received $1 and $20 expressed how fun and entertaining the experiment was, but which of these groups actually believed what they were saying? I'm going to go ahead and let Festinger explain that to you.
Other theories might predict that the man who is paid most would have the highest motivation for enthusing over the dull task and would be most sold on it himself. Cognitive dissonance theory leads to an exactly opposite prediction.
While both groups of participants did go along with saying the experiment was fun to the Confederate, we didn't necessarily get to see what they actually thought of the experiment. So let's take a look how they really feel during the post-experiment interviews. The first individual we will see being interviewed is a participant from the experimental condition that received $20 to explain the experiment was fun. Let's check it out.
The man who is paid $20 knows that the task is dull, but he also knows that he had sufficient justification for saying that it wasn't. How much did you learn from this experiment?
Learn? Well, I don't think I learned too much from the experiment.
Did you enjoy working on the manual test?
Well, it really wasn't too enjoyable. In fact, it was rather boring.
Notice how this participant is not experiencing any dissonance, maintaining to Festinger that the activity was very boring. The $20 incentive was enough to justify the participant's behavior.
How about the man who is paid $1? He knows the task is dull, but he has two discrepant thoughts. He also knows that he did not have sufficient justification for saying that it wasn't. For him, there is dissonance. Time after time, we have seen what follows. He reduces the dissonance by changing his opinion about the dullness of the task. Tell me, how much did you learn from this experiment?
Well, at first I don't think I was learning it too much, but when I got into it, I think it was quite interesting, and after a while it got better.
According to Festinger, group members who were paid only $1 understand that the task is dull and boring, but they ended up with two discrepant thoughts, which eventually lead to the participant experiencing cognitive dissonance. Thought number 1, the task really wasn't fun at all. Thought number 2, but I did just go tell another person the task was really fun. Notice how these two cognitions conflict with one another, leading to increased dissonance. In order to decrease the dissonance that occurs as a result of these conflicting beliefs, we must change our attitude. In Festinger's experiment, this is shown when participants who were only paid $1 reported that the experiment was in fact fun during the exit interview with Festinger. With all of his research, Festinger's legacy in psychology is huge, with cognitive dissonance being described as social psychology's most notable achievement. As a result of Festinger's groundbreaking discovery, cognitive dissonance has been used to further analyze other psychological issues such as decision-making and socialization. Well, that does it for our lesson on cognitive dissonance. I hope you enjoyed. Please do feel free to like and subscribe. It is always appreciated, and it will keep you up to date with all my cool videos. Take it away, Mr. Ray. See you all next time.
There's no mental alibi will fix this mental dissonance by self-justifying cognitive dissonance. There's no mental alibi will fix this mental dissonance by self-justifying.